The Thing in Whisperfen Marsh.
Ranger. Ben Larkin had never liked Whisperfen Marsh, even in daylight. The rest of Cedar Range National Park sprawled in clean lines, rocky ridges, pine forests, open meadows, but the marsh felt like an infection at the park's southern edge, a place where the land had sunk and rotted and decided to stay that way. The water was shallow and black, the reeds taller than a man, and the mud sucked at boots like living hands. It looked like it should be loud with insects and frogs, and yet it always seemed quieter than the rest of the park, as if the marsh swallowed sound along with everything else. On the map, Whisperfen was just a pale green smear with a dotted line skirting its border and a bold red X stamped over its center. No public access. Guests didn't argue with that. Most barely glanced its way. Only the rangers went in. Tonight, Ben was alone. The call had come in just after sunset. A fisherman had ignored signage and vanished off the South Service Road, last seen trudging toward the marsh with a backpack and a cheap lantern. His truck sat abandoned in a turnout, keys still in the ignition. Ben had driven out, found the vehicle, and followed the erratic tracks of a single pair of boots toward the reeds. 30 minutes later, he stood at the edge of the marsh with a flashlight in his hand, wondering why the air felt thick enough to chew. The sky above the fen was a low lid of cloud, trapping the last gray smear of light. The reeds shifted in a lazy breeze that never seemed to touch his face. The water near the shore trembled in small, circular ripples, even though he hadn't disturbed it yet.
"Dispatch, Larkin at Whisperfen,"
he said into his radio.
"Found probable entry point to the marsh. Will proceed on foot, marking my path with glow tabs every 50 meters.
Static hissed, then Dispatch's voice answered,
"Copy, Larkin. Keep it short and sweet in there. We still don't get good reception past the reeds."
"Yeah,"
he muttered.
"I remember."
He clipped a chemical light to the low branch of a dead willow, cracked it, watched its sickly green glow bloom, and stepped into the marsh. The first stride sank him to his ankle. The mud was colder than it had any right to be, the chill stabbing up through his boot. The surface film of the water broke reluctantly, clinging in droplets like oil. The smell hit him next. A sour, stagnant stench layered over with something metallic and faintly sweet. He picked his way along what passed for high ground, following the faint impressions of boot prints. The fisherman had dragged his feet, occasionally stumbling, occasionally turning to look back. Ben could read all of that in the mud. Fear, regret. No clear reason for either. The reeds closed around him. The world shrank to the narrow tunnel carved by his flashlight, every stalk gleaming pale gray, tips nodding in unison. Above, the sky vanished. It might have been midnight or noon, he wouldn't have known. Somewhere ahead, something splashed. A heavy, abrupt sound, not the light plink of a frog, not the slither of a snake. Something large had stepped wrong.
"Hello?"
Ben called.
"Park Ranger. If you can hear me, call back."
His voice should have carried. It felt like shouting inside a closet. The sound fell short of his own ears, as if the reeds absorbed it. No answer. Only the gentle whisper of water licking at submerged roots. He kept moving. Every 50 meters he cracked another glow stick and fastened it to a reed. Little greenish beacons burned behind him, marking a trail back that already felt too fragile. The boot prints grew more erratic. The fisherman had started to run here. Pace lengthened, impressions deeper. Then, suddenly, they veered off sharply into a darker part of the fen, where the reeds grew denser and the water deepened from shin to knee. Ben followed. The mud sucked harder at his boots, trying to steal them. Twice he had to brace against reeds to pull a foot free, The water here had a skin of pale scum that broke reluctantly, curling back like peeling paint. Something brushed against his shin, smooth, long. Definitely not a root.
Leeches,
he said aloud, because saying something normal made him feel better. It didn't help much. The boot prints ended at a small open pool ringed by drooping cattails. The fisherman's last steps were stamped heavy into the mud, toes skidding forward as if he'd tried to stop too late. At the water's edge stood his lantern, still upright, its glass cracked, the flame dead. His backpack lay half-submerged nearby, one strap torn clean in two. Ben's flashlight illuminated the pool. It was black. Not just dark with depth, but black in the way of an absence, a circular hole in the world. No reflection of his light, no glint. The reeds leaned away from it as if repelled. Ben's skin crawled. He edged closer slowly, careful not to slip.
Larkin to dispatch,
he said, radio suddenly heavy in his hand.
Found abandoned gear at the Marsh Center. Lantern, pack, no sign of subject. Pool appears deeper than expected. Requesting thermal drone sweep at these coordinates.
Static crackled. Then dispatch's voice, distant and fuzzy.
Copy, Larkin. Drone ETA. Minutes. Stay put if possible.
Her words faded to snow. The radio squealed once and died to silence, the signal eaten by the air.
Of course,
Ben muttered.
Why would tonight be easy?
He stared at the pool, counting his own breaths. He knew better than to assume drowning right away. The fisherman could have panicked, dropped his gear, run in another direction. The marsh could hide him anywhere. Still, the hair on the back of Ben's neck stood up in a way he didn't like. Something about the pool felt wrong in a way he couldn't fit into any training manual. The surface shifted. Just a ripple at first, concentric circles spreading from a point slightly off-center. The ripple didn't reflect the light either. His beam seemed swallowed by it, bending away. Ben took a step back. The water bulged. As he watched, something pressed upward from beneath, distorting the surface like a balloon inflating beneath plastic wrap. It rose slowly, too slowly for bubbles or any natural pressure. The reeds shivered. The smell of rot thickened. He froze, every instinct screaming at once. The bulge broke the surface. A pale shape emerged, slick with black water. For a second, Ben thought it was a human hand, fingers spread, reaching. Then it kept rising, far too long, a tapering, eel-smooth limb with joints in the wrong places. It unfolded like a length of wet rope, then curved, questing through the air. Another followed, and another. They weren't arms, they weren't tentacles. They were something between, with the wrong number of segments, ending in frayed tips that flexed like fingers. Ben stumbled back, slipping in the mud. His flashlight jerked wildly, painting chaos across the reeds, across those reaching limbs. The pool vomited more of them up, a forest of pale appendages unfurling, dripping water that smoked when it hit the mud. In the shifting mass, something else rose. A head, or the suggestion of one. A rounded shape, no eyes that he could see, no mouth, only folds of slick, rumpled flesh that quivered as the thing hauled itself higher. Its surface crawled with holes, some closing, some opening, all of them dark. The limbs anchored themselves to the mud, to reeds, to nothing Ben could see, pulling the bulk up and out of the pool like a spider emerging from its funnel web. He'd seen body horror in movies. He'd laughed at sinewy CGI monsters alone on his couch. None of that prepared him for the real thing, the way his brain tried and failed to make category boxes for what it saw. It hurt to look at. The thing turned toward him. He knew it was looking even without eyes. Every fold of its mass seemed to orient, pores widening, limbs angling. The air distorted faintly between them, like heat ripples, and there was a sensation under his skin, a buzzing in his teeth. It spoke, not in any language, not in any voice. The marsh spoke for it. The reeds rustled, though no wind blew, the water quivered. In that layered sound, Ben heard his own radio calls, chopped and rearranged. Dispatch's voice from earlier that evening stuttering backward, fragments of tourist chatter, snatches of words he'd muttered to himself on lonely patrols. Every sound he'd ever made near Whisper Fen, every word anyone had ever thrown into this wet bowl of land, rose now as a chorus from that thing.
Stay put. Found abandoned. Don't go off trail. No public. Stay. 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 Stay.
It was using them. All the thrown-away sound, all the casual noise. Something in the marsh had recorded everything and saved it like a hoard, and now it was pouring it back at him in the shape of a demand. Ben scrambled in the mud, got to his feet, slipped again. The limbs moved lazily, exploratory, not yet striking. It didn't have to be fast. There was nowhere for him to go that didn't involve moving deeper into its home. He pointed his flashlight directly at its bulk. For a moment, the beam penetrated a little, showing something under the pale surface. Faces. Not whole, not detailed. Impressions of eye sockets, cheekbones pressed outward from within, like too many things had been shoved under a thin sheet. Some human, some not. Antlers, beaks, the ridged skull of a coyote, the blank round eyes of frogs, all together, all shifting past each other. His stomach lurched, bile burned to the back of his throat. The light flickered. The battery icon on the handle, full only minutes ago, dropped to red, then blinked out. The beam died. In the darkness that followed, the thing's sound swelled.
Stay, 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 stay. No,
He said, voice coming out in a croak.
No, I'm not.
His radio clicked back on by itself.
Larkin, this is dispatch.
It said in his own voice, perfectly parroted.
Unit out of service. Remaining on scene. Do not send assistance.
The real dispatch overlapped a second later, faint beneath the mimicry.
Larkin, did you key your mic by accident? Please confirm status.
The chorus of voices drowned him out. Louder now, playing multiple versions of him over the years. Laughing into the mic, swearing under his breath. Humming tunelessly on late shifts. Everything he'd ever carelessly let leak into the marsh. The limbs shifted, then struck. Ben flung himself sideways, half jumping, half falling into shallower water. One pale appendage slammed into the spot where he'd stood, punching straight through mud to some buried layer with a sucking sound. Another whipped past his shoulder, brushing his jacket. Cold seeped instantly through the canvas, numbing the skin beneath, as if the heat had been evacuated.
Larkin.
The real dispatch's voice cut faintly through the noise.
Status.
He struggled upright, ripped the radio off his shoulder and bellowed into it.
Do not come in the marsh, drone only, repeat, no entry.
The radio sparked. His voice cut off mid-sentence, replaced by an echo of himself from a year ago, cheerfully asking about lunch. The battery pack smoked. He dropped it into the black water. It sank without a ripple. The thing surged closer. The pool behind it did not shrink. It was as if there were no limit to what could crawl out. Limbs planted around him, each one thin as a sapling but with impossible strength. They moved with the steady rhythm of roots growing in time-lapse, patient and unstoppable. Ben did the only thing he could think of. He ran not away from the pool, but around it. The marsh tried to pull him down. Mud grabbed at his boots. Hidden roots tripped him. He vaulted a narrow channel of water, grabbed at reeds to stay upright. One of the creature's limbs slammed down inches from his foot, spraying stinging droplets. Where they hit bare skin at his wrist, the sensation was not wetness, but extreme emptiness. A momentary void in his nerves. His hand spasmed open, dropping his dead flashlight. He had marked his path. He had left himself a trail. Greenish points of light glimmered in the reeds, a staggered constellation of glow sticks leading the way back like cheap will-o-wisps. He ran toward them, lungs burning, heart battering his chest. The marsh sloshed and seethed behind him, the creature's sound volume chasing him as it rearranged his own words into hungry orders.
Come back. You're off trail. Stay with me. With me.
He didn't look back. A limb whipped across his shoulders, spinning him. Another slapped the mud in front of him, blocking the path. He dropped, rolled under it, came up panting. The glow sticks bobbed. The land rose infinitesimally. The smell of rot diluted just a bit. Something shrieked behind him, a sound like static being torn in half. His next step found firmer ground. The reeds parted, thinning, the sky above brightening from black to a dull iron gray. His boots hit plain mud, then the first patches of frozen grass at the marsh edge. The sound cut off, all at once. He stumbled another 20 yards before collapsing to one knee, chest heaving. When he risked a glance back, Whisperfen lay quiet and flat, reeds nodding gently. No pale limbs, no bulging pool, just a smudge of darker water in the distance. His glow sticks glowed faintly among the stalks, their light anemically normal. He shivered, not from cold. The radio at his shoulder, waterlogged, crackled once.
Larkin, say again. We lost you for a minute. Drone shows elevated thermal signature in the center of the marsh, then nothing. You okay out there?
He pressed the transmit button with shaking fingers.
Subject presumed deceased,
he rasped.
Recommend we update the map.
Update it how?
Dispatch asked. Ben stared at the reeds.
Just move the red X,
he said.
All of Whisperfen. No public access. No ranger entry without team support. Full gear, and I mean it.
A pause.
You sound shaken,
he said.
You see an animal, predator.
He thought of the thing's mass, of the voices it had used, of the way its limbs reached not like an attacking animal, but like something that wanted to add him to itself, to keep his sounds, to keep his shape.
Something like that,
he said. He trudged back to the truck, boots heavy, clothes soaked, a numb strip of flesh burning along his arm where the limb had scraped him. Later, when he peeled his sleeve back, he found no wound, just a faint branching pattern beneath the skin, pale as frost. At home that night, as he tried to sleep, he heard himself whisper his own name in the dark, but it took him a long time to realize he wasn't the one who whispered it.
The Red Altar at Coyote Spine.
Ranger Leah Ortiz had hiked Coyote Spine Ridge more times than she could count, but she had never seen the stone before. The ridge was one of Sagebrush Valley's calmer routes, a steady incline through juniper and scrub pine that culminated in a narrow spine of rock overlooking a drop so clean and sheer it made some tourists sit down just to look at it. Leah knew every interpretive sign by heart, every hazard warning, every spot where kids like to carve their initials despite the no vandalism postings. She did not know the altar, yet there it was. She found it on a cloudy afternoon patrol, the sky low and heavy, the air holding that electric tingle that said rain was thinking about it. Her boots crunched gravel as she rounded a bend near the ridge's summit and stopped. 10 yards off the official trail, where she was certain there had always been bare rock and wind-stunted sage, stood a flat, waist-high slab of reddish stone. It looked like it had grown there, not been placed. Its base fused seamlessly to the ground. The surface had been smoothed and hollowed, forming a shallow basin. Dried, dark stains crusted the depressions, the color of old rust. In the middle, someone had arranged a neat ring of coyote skulls. Leah's hand went automatically to her radio.
"Base, this is Ortiz on Coyote Spine,"
she said, eyes never leaving the altar.
"I'm observing what looks like a ritual site. Non-park materials, fresh. Dispatch a photos team when you can."
Static murmured, accompanied by a faint crackle. Then,
Copy, Ortiz. Any people nearby?
Negative. No one visible. No permits for events today either.
Log it as potential cult activity. Do not engage if folks show you're solo up there, yeah?
Affirmative. I'll document and probably knock down the props.
Careful,
dispatch said.
We've been getting weird anonymous complaints about that ridge. People feeling watched, hearing, chanting. Could be a bunch of edgelords filming themselves, maybe armed. Don't be a hero.
Never am,
Leah said. She clicked off and approached the altar. Up close, the skulls were not quite right. Too smooth, the sutures too faint. Their eye sockets had been drilled deeper, bored out in perfect circles that peered up at her. Fine, red dust lined those sockets. When she touched it with a gloved finger, it clung like iron filings.
Cute,
she muttered.
Real cute.
The stains in the basin had odd shapes, not splatter but deliberate lines, drawn in some dark liquid that had dried into glossy ridges. They formed symbols, circles intersected by jagged lines, repeating in a pattern that made her eyes hurt if she stared too long. The wind shifted, carrying a smell that didn't belong here. Wet copper, old meat. Leah frowned, scanning the ridge. The usual sounds of the park, wind, distant crows, the faint hum of traffic miles below, seemed muffled, like a door had been half shut on the world. She took a series of quick photos with her phone, each accompanied by the artificial click. On the third photo, the sound lagged slightly out of sync. The phone screen flickered. The image that appeared wasn't quite what she'd framed. The altar was there, yes, the skulls, the basin. And behind it, just at the edge of the frame, stood a semicircle of figures in dark, hooded clothing, heads bowed. Leah froze. She jerked her gaze up. No one stood behind the altar. Only open air and the dizzying drop of the ridge, the valley far below hazy with heat. She looked back at her phone. The figures were still there, grainy, like something caught on an old VHS tape. Their silhouettes were thick, oddly proportioned. One seemed to have antlers under the hood. Another's face was just a blank oval of darker shade. The timestamp on the photo showed a time 5 minutes in the future. Lightning flickered silently in the distance.
Okay,
she breathed.
That's new.
A whisper threaded through the wind. At first, she thought it was just the rise and fall of gusts pushing past rock. Then the pattern registered. Syllables, words made of breath and grit.
All who draw the boundary, all who mark the line.
Leah's skin crawled. She turned slowly, scanning the ridge. The path behind her was empty, the winding switchbacks devoid of hikers. The trail ahead curved out of sight around a rock outcrop. No one visible anywhere. Yet the whisper persisted, coming from everywhere and nowhere, always just behind her ears.
All who decide which paths are safe, which are forbidden.
She clenched her jaw.
Trespassing on federal land is a crime,
she called, because routine helped.
If you're out here and you think this is cute, you need to show yourself.
The whisper did not stop. It did not respond. It only layered more voices into its murmur, some low and rasping, others high and breathy. Male, female, and something in between. Her radio crackled again.
Ortiz?
Dispatch's voice sounded smaller, as if coming from much farther away.
You still at the ridge?
Yeah?
She said, grateful for anything normal.
Sight's clear. No individuals. Strong indication someone's staging ritual imagery up here, though.
She hesitated.
Priority should probably be getting a crew to dismantle this altar before the TikTok crowd finds it.
Static hissed. For a second, she thought she heard another voice layered under dispatch, a slow, amused tone saying her name.
Ortiz.
It sighed. She thumbed the volume down a notch, throat tight.
I'm going to head down trail and see if I can catch anyone leaving,
she said.
I'll mark the GPS on this spot.
Copy it.
Dispatch replied.
Be advised, weather radar shows a cell forming right over your location. Might get some weird interference. If you lose radio, check in by text once you're below tree line.
Her phone buzzed in her pocket as if on cue. She glanced at the screen. One new photo had appeared in her roll. She hadn't taken it. It showed the altar, closer than before, the basin filled to the brim with something dark and shiny. The coyote skulls were turned inward, as if watching. A hand, her hand, rested on the edge of the stone, sleeve unmistakably her jacket. The timestamp, 10 minutes from now. The breath left her lungs in a fast, cold rush.
Okay, no.
She said to the empty ridge.
We're not doing premonitions today. I did not consent to that.
The altar waited. The ridge beyond it seemed subtly different now. The rock outcrop's angles skewed. Distant hills shifted. She realized with a lurch that if she walked past the altar, she wouldn't be walking the same trail she'd hiked 100 times. The world beyond that stone felt layered. The whisper crescendoed.
Those who say here and no further. Those who decide which places remain wild and which are tamed.
Leah stepped back. The ridge under her boot crumbled, pebbles cascading. She pinwheeled her arms and managed not to tumble. The drop on her right yawned, empty and far. She did what every handbook said not to do with a potentially sacred site. She walked up to the altar and set her palm flat on its surface. The stone was warm. Not sun-warm, pulse-warm. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the world flipped sideways. Leah felt her body still standing, boot soles on rock, hand on stone. At the same time, she was somewhere else. Hours later, sky darker, air filled with the smell of wet iron. The basin beneath her hand was slick, overflowing with blood that ran over the edge and down the sides in warm rivulets. Her handprint shone in it. She stood at the center of a circle of hooded figures. Their chant pounded at her skull.
For the rangers who cut trails into our bones, for the ones who pound markers into our skulls, for the ones who say, you may, and you may not.
She couldn't move. Her muscles locked. She turned her head at a glacial pace, watching as one of the hooded figures pushed back its cowl. Her own face stared back at her. Except the eyes were wrong, pupils a horizontal slit like a goat's, irises the color of dry grass. Bark dust clung to her hair. Her smile revealed teeth a little too sharp.
Thank you for coming,
the other Leah said.
We needed someone with authority.
The vision snapped. She staggered back on the sunless afternoon ridge, hand still pressed to warm stone. The basin remained dry. Her palm, when she pulled it back, was clean. The whisper had stopped. In the sudden quiet, a distant rumble of thunder rolled. She backed away from the altar. Her fingers tingled. She could walk away now. Report the stone. Let someone else deal with it. That was the smartest move. The handbook move. But the vision clung to her, especially the part where her double had smiled and said, authority. She thought about what the whisper had been saying, about people like her setting boundaries, drawing lines, declaring some places off limits and others safe. Maybe this wasn't about TikTok kids or bored locals. Maybe this was older. Maybe the land itself had decided it resented the idea of being managed. The radio at her shoulder clicked. Her own voice emerged. Not the words she'd just spoken, snatches from prior days.
Trail's safe past the bend, ma'am. Just stay behind the railing. This overlook is closed, folks. You'll have to go back. No, you can't camp here. It's restricted.
A dozen little moments of saying yes and no. The altar seemed to listen. Leah switched the radio off. Her phone buzzed again. Another photo. Her on the far side of the altar, hood over her head, hand raised as if blessing someone unseen. She deleted it with shaking fingers. Then she took out her multi-tool.
This is a bad idea,
she told herself out loud.
This may be the worst idea I've ever had.
She climbed onto the altar. The stone dipped slightly under her weight, as if accommodating her. In the imagined future, the basin held blood and her palm glowed in it. In the now, she knelt and began to scratch. She scored a line across the surface, through the symbols. Not deep cut. Her tool wasn't meant for carving stone, just enough to interrupt the continuity of the pattern. The air shuddered. The clouds above the ridge seemed to rearrange, swirling against their own wind. A whining built in her ears, like pressure changes in a plane. She carved another line, crossing the first, a crude X through the altar's art. The whining swelled. The surrounding junipers bowed as if under a sudden weight. For a split second, she heard the hooded crowd again, their chant fractured.
For the Rangers, for the ones who drew, for the ones who...
Static. Silence. Her phone screen glitched, the future photos vanishing in a smear of pixels. When it cleared, her gallery held only the original 3 shots she'd taken. No hooded figures, no blood. The stone under her hand cooled. She climbed down, legs trembling. The skulls remained, ringed neatly around the basin. Dried stains still scarred the stone, but the sense of pressure had lessened. The world beyond the altar looked like the trail she knew again, ridge and valley in distant town. She could breathe. Her radio, still off, clicked once.
Ortiz, weather's breaking sooner than expected.
Dispatch's real voice said when she turned it back on.
You might get some flashes, but no full cell. How's that weird side?
Documented and modified.
Leah said carefully.
Recommend a closure sign and probably a rock hammer up here. It's not safe.
Not safe how?
Dispatch asked. Leah looked at the altar, at the faint X she'd carved across its surface.
It wants rangers,
she said.
People like us? I told it no.
A beat of silence.
Copy.
Dispatch replied, professionalism winning over skepticism.
We'll flag it, you heading down?
Yeah,
Leah said.
I'm heading down.
As she hiked away, she felt eyes on her back. Not the hungry ritual ones from the vision. Older eyes, the land's. It felt displeased, but strangely normal. And she could live with that.
The trail that didn't want to end.
Ranger. Marcus Hale hated closing the park at night. During the day, Lamplight Gorge was beautiful. A loop trail that wound along a river, climbed to a waterfall, then arced back along a ridge with observation platforms spaced every half-mile. In full sun, officers joked that the park practically ran itself. Well-marked paths, sturdy railings, scenic views. Hard to get hurt unless you tried. At night, the gorge changed. The river's pleasant chatter became a low, restless roar. The wind that had felt refreshing turned cold and slippery, sneaking under collars. Shadows clotted in the crevices of the rock walls, whispering in voices that sounded too close to words. Nobody was supposed to be in the park after closing for a reason. Tonight, Marcus was late. A family had overstayed at the upper picnic area, forcing him to escort them back to the lot with apologetic firmness and strained smiles. By the time he made it back to Trailhead 3 to start his sweep, the sun had dropped behind the ridge and the gorge was filled with the kind of blue-gray light that made depth hard to judge. He clicked on his headlamp.
Trail 3 sweep starting now,
He told dispatch over the radio.
Expect check-in at Observation Platform B in about 20.
Copy that, Hale.
Came the reply.
And hey, don't feed the ghosts.
Ha.
Marcus said, because if you didn't make jokes about it, the folklore had a way of making itself too real.
No promises.
He started down the loop. The gravel crunched under his boots with familiar weight. He'd walked this path 100 times, once fresh out of academy, pacing nervously and checking every railing, and 99 times since, gradually settling into the rhythm. Close the park gates, check the trash, make sure no one was sleeping in the restrooms. Walk the loop, count the platforms, eyes on the dark, radio in reach. Simple. 10 minutes in, he noticed first 1, then 3, then 10 of the trail lamps failing to come on. Along the ridge section, waist-high bollards with frosted caps usually glowed soft amber after dusk, guiding stragglers toward the exit and marking the edges so no one wandered too close to the drop. Tonight, every third one remained dark. The pattern wasn't consistent. A run of 5 would be lit, then 4 dead, then 2 on, 2 off, 1 flickering. Marcus frowned.
Maintenance is gonna love this,
he muttered. He paused at lamp 12, one of the dead ones, and thumped it gently with his fist. The plastic cover rattled. No light? He checked his watch. Still on schedule. Still the same 20-minute pace. He walked on, but the gorge didn't look quite right. The rock faces seemed closer than usual, leaning in as if listening. The river below sounded farther, as if the water had dropped away while the walls crept higher. The sky above, where he should have seen the first stars, looked like a smudged smear, as if someone had dragged a thumb across a fresh paint. He tried to radio dispatch.
Hail to base,
he said.
You got a note about the trail lamps on 3? Half of them are.
Leaving now,
came her voice.
What's your ETA back at the lot?
He blinked.
ETA? I just started. I'm maybe a quarter of the way.
Marcus, you checked in at Platform B 20 minutes ago,
she said.
You okay?
A cold finger trailed down his spine. He stopped walking. He hadn't reached Platform B. He hadn't even seen it yet. He stood in the middle of a stretch that should have been familiar, but suddenly he couldn't picture exactly what came next.
What time do you have?
He asked, forcing his tone to stay level.
21:08.
Dispatch said.
You checked in at 2000. Said the trail was clear and you were heading out. Don't tell me you looped back because you forgot your hat again.
Marcus stared at his watch. It read 2023.
Got a bad signal,
he said carefully.
Think our times are crossing. I'll finish the loop and call you from the lot.
Copy.
she said slowly.
You sound weird. You sure you're okay?
Just annoyed at the lights.
He lied.
Hail out.
He clipped the radio back to his vest and kept moving. The next bend should have led to a short wooden bridge over a sidewash. Instead, the trail curved along another rock wall, identical to the last. The bollards continued in their inconsistent pattern. Lamp lit, lamp dark, lamp flickering. His heart picked up speed. He walked faster. 5 minutes later, he passed the same graffiti scratched low on the sandstone at the base of a boulder, a crude drawing of a smiling face with horns. He knew it, had seen it on every sweep, had once given a lecture to a teenager about carving things into public rock. The fact that it appeared here again, when this section shouldn't have repeated, made his mouth go dry. He looked over the edge. The gorge dropped away into darkness, a long fall to the river below. Except, had the river ever looked that narrow from here? The ribbon of silver he could barely make out seemed farther away, the drop deeper. He kept walking, lamp lit, lamp dark, lamp flickering. He tried counting steps. At 300, he should have hit platform B. At 400, his calves burned. At 500, he realized he'd begun to hear something under the river's roar. Footsteps, not his. Slightly out of sync, half a beat behind, as though someone walked in his shadow. He stopped abruptly. The other steps stopped the same instant. He moved his weight from foot to foot in place, listening. Gravel crunched under his boots. Nothing echoed it. Then, behind him, the sound came again. 1 step, 2, crunch, crunch. He whirled, headlamp beam slashing across the trail. Empty. No hikers, no animal. Just bollards stretching back along the ridge, their lights stuttering unevenly, some lit, some dead.
Hell no.
He whispered. His radio popped. A voice came through. His.
No promises,
It said, in his earlier joking tone. The recording he'd made not 15 minutes ago on the main band. Then another Marcus overlapped it, a version from last week, reciting a weather warning. Then another, from months ago, laughing with another ranger about someone's dropped phone. All of them layered, rising and falling, making a nonsense chorus of his own voice. Between the echoes, something else spoke.
Keep walking.
It sounded like him if you aged him 30 years and buried him for 10. Marcus grabbed the radio, thumb stabbing at the power button. It didn't respond. Light on, static, voices looping.
Trail's clear.
Don't feed the ghosts. Watch your step.
Keep walking.
The part of his brain that handled panic and dark humor tried to make a joke. It died halfway formed.
Not funny.
He said aloud, to the gorge, to himself. The world flickered. 1 second, he stood on the ridge trail. The next, he stood at platform B. The transition was instantaneous and wrong. No in-between, no steps, just blink and the world changed. The wooden rail of the platform pressed against his thigh. The bench sat in its usual place, damp with evening dew. The interpretive sign about watershed ecology leaned at its slightly crooked angle. He'd been reaching forward to hit the radio button. His hand now hovered over the platform's metal map. Behind him, the trail back looked normal. His watch still read 2023. His stomach lurched.
Hail to base.
He said into the mic, voice tight.
At platform B, trail ahead appears compressed. Might have some kind of optical issue or bad lighting. Request someone check cameras when I get back.
He needed documentation, something outside his own perception. No answer.
Base?
He tried, static. He turned fully toward the gorge, looking out over the railing. The river at the bottom flashed faintly. Lightning illuminated a slice of sky behind distant peaks. Wind gusted against his face, smelling of wet stone and something else, old smoke. For just a moment, the gorge wasn't the gorge. The canyon below was blackened, trees reduced to skeletal stumps, the ground scarred. Char, ash, a burnt landscape lit from below by a line of orange flame crawling along the valley floor like a slow-cutting fuse. The air where he stood roiled with heat that never quite reached his skin. On the far side of the canyon, another platform stood. On it, another ranger in a similar vest, helmet askew, face streaked with soot, coughing into his elbow as he scanned the horizon. Their eyes met. For a heartbeat, each looked into the wrong present. Then the lightning faded. The gorge was itself again, intact, green-black, damp. The heat vanished. Marcus leaned hard against the railing, forcing himself to breathe.
Okay.
He said, because the silence demanded sound.
Cool little temporal bleed. That's fine. Totally fine.
Behind him, footsteps crunched. Slow, deliberate, coming up the trail he'd just walked. He didn't turn right away. He didn't want to see who he knew it would be. When he finally looked, the man from the burnt gorge vision stood at the edge of the platform. Older than Marcus by maybe 20 years. Beard graying at the edges. Uniform cut from an older style. Patch logo slightly different. His eyes were bloodshot. Burn blisters climbed his neck.
"Hey, kid,"
the older ranger said. His voice echoed oddly, as if two recordings overlapped.
"You're not supposed to be here."
Marcus's mouth had gone dry.
I was just thinking that about you.
The man stepped closer. The boards didn't creak under his boots. His edges were slightly transparent, the trail lamps visible through his outline.
"You walked the loop,"
the man said.
"alone, at night. You heard your own voice bounce places it doesn't belong."
Marcus swallowed hard.
"You one of the ones in the stories?"
he asked.
"The old fire crew cut off when the gorge burned. People say they still walk the trail, warning folks."
The older ranger chuckled.
"We walked it once,"
he said.
"We never got around to stopping."
He pointed past Marcus down the trail ahead.
"There's a spot up there where the path doubles back on itself. If you hit it at the wrong time, with the wrong signal, you don't loop around. You loop through."
He tapped his own chest.
"We hit it. Radios screamed. Fire jumped where it shouldn't. Half the crew burned. The rest, well, depends who you ask whether we made it out."
Marcus forced his brain into gear.
Am I dead?
He asked.
"Not yet,"
the man said.
"You're in the overlap. The park's like this, you know. Trails and times crossing. Most nights it lines up tidy. Tonight, you brought too many of yourself with you."
He nodded at the radio.
"All those check-ins, all those little echoes. It likes echoes, feeds on them, builds with them."
It being the gorge?
Marcus said weakly.
"The place, the way it holds sound, the way stone and water bounce waves back and forth. You give anything long enough, it figures out how to use what you're handing it."
The older ranger looked not angry, not sad, more tired than anything.
"You keep walking, kid. You're going to do what we did. Reach the lot, check out, swear you're done. And then find yourself back at the trailhead, over and over, until all your versions blur.
The boards under Marcus's boots felt suddenly less solid. Lightning flashed again, but farther this time. The gorge flickered, overlays of burned and green landscapes stacking.
What do I do?
He asked.
How do I break it?
For starters, stop narrating.
The man said.
Stop feeding it your fear. Stop calling in every little thing.
He cracked a faint smile.
You rangers now, you talk too much. You turned the job into a podcast. The job used to be walking and shutting up.
Marcus huffed despite himself. The older ranger stepped to the edge of the platform, looking down.
Second thing,
he said quietly.
When you leave here, don't walk the rest of the loop. Climb off the side.
Marcus stared.
What?
Drop down 10 feet. There's an old game trail just below this platform. It's not on your maps anymore. People stopped using it. The echo doesn't know it as well. Less repetition, less sound. You hug the rock and take it all the way to the maintenance road. You don't look back. You don't count steps. You don't talk.
That sounds unsafe as hell,
Marcus said.
So is living in a time loop gorge forever.
The man replied.
Balancing act, kid.
The boards creaked now. The platform felt heavier, as if more versions of both of them crowded into it from different nights. Marcus saw ghosted overlays, himself in different clothes, other rangers, tourists, all blinking in and out between the same few square feet. His head spun.
Why help me?
He asked.
If you're stuck, why not drag me in? Company, right?
The older ranger shrugged.
We're rangers,
he said simply.
We warn people about the trail, even when the trail is time.
He stepped back, outline thinning.
You should go before you hear yourself again.
What if I fall?
Marcus asked.
Then you'll know which side of the plaque you're on sooner.
The man said.
Move.
Marcus moved. He slung one leg, then the other over the platform rail, gripping the wood so hard his knuckles ached. The drop below was not sheer here. A slanted shelf of rock jutted about 10 feet down, then a steeper slope into brush. Manageable. Maybe.
When you hit the shelf, tuck and roll.
The older ranger said, voice already fading.
And when you get to the maintenance road, file a report that says the gorge audio system is malfunctioning. Have them rip half the speakers out. Fewer echoes.
Marcus sucked in a breath, let go and dropped. The impact rattled his teeth. Pain spiked through his ankle. He rolled, scraped his forearm raw, and came to a stop against a knot of roots. Above, the platform loomed. His own headlamp made a faint ring of light on its underside. The boards creaked overhead, once, twice, then silence. He didn't look up again. He crawled, then walked, along the faint band of flattish rock, one hand on the wall. The maintenance road emerged from the dark like salvation. Gravel felt like a miracle under his boots. His radio, blessedly quiet until now, hissed. Hale? You there? You never checked out from Platform B. He raised it, heart hammering.
Yeah,
he said, voice hoarse.
Took a shortcut. I'll explain later. I'm heading back to the lot via the service road. Log me off the trail.
You sound like you've seen a ghost,
Dispatch said.
Something like that,
Marcus murmured. As he limped toward the lot, he heard his own laughter bounce once. Far away, lower in the gorge. An echo from another night. The gorge could keep that version. He was done walking its loop, for now.
Thank you again for tuning in to the Eerie Archives channel. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment what you'd like to see in the next video. Until next time, stay eerie.